right now, aren't you?
I feel pretty good, to be honest.
Okay.
It's good to see. And also, I don't know why I just said to be honest. My dad used to always get on me about that. Like, to be honest, that means there are times where you're dishonest.
Yeah.
But no, I feel
there are times you're dishonest.
I mean, sometimes you got to be dishonest, but you don't love to be. But
all of us are at times.
Sure, but it doesn't make you feel good to be. But no, I feel good. There's been I love this. I don't know how else to say it.
Nordo put together a new stab, and here it is.
Free agency never fails on the Quasi train. Free agency never fails on the Quasi train.
You lucky suckers. What do you think?
That's very good. I mean, this guy's good.
Covenant collapse. Alec Lewis, athletic.com at Alec_Lewis with the Athletic. All right, 3-2.
What should we talk about?
I can't read my writing. That's really, really
What about Bubba Bolden?
I'm looking for a working cell phone number. Do you happen to have one?
For who?
Bubba Bolden. What's up with Bubba Bolden in the first wave?
Well, he's represented by the same agent as Byron Murphy Jr.
Hold on a second. When you reported on that, you didn't do what everybody else is doing and credit deal closed by so-and-so and so-and-so.
It's so wild. I mean, it's just part of it, but like, I hope the people listening, I hope you know, like when you see a lot of these contracts done and it's reported on social media and the agent is credited, that's likely because the agent provided the information and they want it to look like they did a good job negotiating when in reality, their player performed really well, which helped the negotiation. But it's a very interesting world that you wade in with some of this news, and I wade in it because that's part of the job, but it's been a fun few days because they've been active.
The word I couldn't read was Bursic. For some reason, I made it look like Brandel. So 3-2. What did Bursic have to say about the Vikings and free agency on the Alec Lewis Show podcast, which you can find on YouTube?
Are you saying Bursic is the Blake Brandel of analysts, or what are you?
Yes, he's
got
tough.
Position flexibility.
Position flexibility. We can use him on the sideline if we need to. Preseason, he can do TV. Like Blake, didn't finish the season that well last year with some of the calls. I'm just playing. He was on fire all the time.
Yeah,
except the combine.
Yeah, Bursic. Had him on the podcast. He wanted to hop on. He's got a new studio.
He does?
Yeah, he's excited about some stuff he's got going on. But no, we talked about.
What do you mean he has a new studio?
You know, he's got some software set up. He was telling me all about it. I was trying to I was trying to make calls on quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you do the Alec Lewis Show from the podcast of your condominium complex or apartment complex, you know, with that aggressive light shining in.
Yeah. When are you going to get some technology?
I'll do something at some point. No, I've got to get a better background.
When are you going to get some technology?
All right, Nordo.
Oh, wow. You're snarky right now.
No.
Worried about Alabama losing to Auburn in the SEC tournament, aren't you?
No, Bursic, you know, we talked about Isaiah Rodgers. I told him, and I think he laughed at me that the night they signed him, that first night, what was that, Monday, I guess, I was watching film of Isaiah Rodgers in the second half against the Rams and watching him go against Puka Nacua. We were talking about him as a fit, and then we talked about Jonathan Allen and them shoring up the lines. And I mean, it's expected. Like, I've been on the radio with you since the season ended probably 10 times, and we've talked every time they're going to be very strategic about shoring up the lines of scrimmage. And obviously they inked Aaron Jones back, and Byron Murphy Jr. was a priority. And I said that all along as well. So, we talked about a lot of it, and yeah, it's,
good morning.
Yeah. And good morning. But it's been interesting just to see the players they've targeted. I'll tell you, just like last year with Grenard and Cashman and Van Ginkel, a lot of these guys have injury histories, and you're betting on your training staff and Tyler Williams and your infrastructure for it to work. But like, I read some of these injuries, and it's Ryan Kelly with some pretty serious stuff, Will Fries with the serious tibia, Jonathan Allen, pectoral, you know, Javon Hargrave, if that happens, as
Isaiah Rodgers fracturing his wallet by gambling.
Javon Hargrave partially torn triceps. I mean, a lot of this stuff I hear it, and it's concerning. But that's the market you're waiting in free agency, and that's why free agency is just not sustainable. I was laughing yesterday because I'm watching ESPN, and Schefter goes, "Yeah, the Eagles have 20 picks over the next 2 years." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
But I mean,
that's compensatory game.
Well, it's compensatory. It's savvy trades. I mean, that's how you build winners. You have draft picks. You hit in the draft. So as much fun as this period has been, and you said this earlier in the show as I was listening, like that's still the conversation that we're always going to have is if they're not hitting in the draft, then it's not going to work. But it's been interesting to see them spend the money that they have, and it's also a testament to. It's a testament to Rob Brzezinski, Emily Battis, the job they've done in conversation with agents, but it's also a testament to ownership being willing to spend the way they have, and I don't think that can be taken for granted.
Props to you. Credit where credit is due, for sure, man. I mean, you back at the Senior Bowl, you weren't at the Senior Bowl, but around that time, you started talking to us about Will Fries, and I'd heard his name. I didn't know he was a free agent, but I mean, your intel and or your work led you to that early, and it was dead right every step of the way. Covenant collapse for you on that. But off a tibia, from what I understand, if it's a broken bone, like a tibia, compared to the ligature stuff, the muscular stuff, some of the other things with which they're dealing, that's less of a concern. Like the bone's going to heal the way the bone's going to heal, and you can see it via the X-ray. So I don't sense any. But the Kelly situation, that he's in his 30s, and we had their Vox on Matt Taylor earlier. Ryan Kelly's Indianapolis Colts football immortality,
like a legend,
right? And super popular. It's like the offensive line version of Aaron Jones. Like fans are super sad that he's gone and stuff. But we had a neck. And then we came back. Then we had a calf in the comeback game. Then he misses 3, and then he comes back, and it's like, well, good. We're not going anywhere or whatever. Can't figure out Anthony. Lingering knee situation. Let's shut him down. So with the box, it's my last question to him was, I just wonder why Indianapolis was cool letting these guys go. What would you think on that?
Well, I mean, there's no question with Ryan Kelly. I mean, you have an aging player who's had a lot of injuries. I mean, if you're playing smartly, the idea is you'd probably like to target youth and guys that can be durable. And then with Will Fries, like you just laid out the bone situation. I'm not an elite bone tibia mind. I'm not going to pretend to be, but you better be very, very freaking sure that things are going to be okay there, because you have a position where lower body mobility and strength is the position. So that's just what I would say. I mean, like teams let go of guys in free agency all the time for reasons, and it's incumbent upon the other team to do the due diligence on that. But I'll also say with all these guys, like I've talked to some of the other writers who have covered the Jonathan Allens and the Ryan Kellys, and it's a lot of, I don't want to say like snarl, but like no nonsense leadership, like beloved in the locker room, but not going to be the most loquacious with media members.
Riley Reeve.
And I think that's what this team needs, to be honest with you. Again,
that's the comparison that was given to me. Not playing style, but he's Riley. I mean, Riley didn't say much. I mean, Riley lived, and probably still does, in like this $675,000 trailer in South Dakota or something, this mobile home or whatever.
Bismarck? Is that South Dakota? Or
I don't know. I was just in Sioux Falls, but simplistic, and not a minimalist, but simplistic. And I think Ryan's kind of like Riley Reeve.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't cover Riley, so I'm not.
Isn't it one of those Airstreams?
That's what it is.
It's like the Silver Bullet or something. I mean, one of those things.
Yeah, the sucker was over $500,000.
Yeah, he never
tricked
talks.
out.
Yeah,
I'm not Airstreams.
Can't wait for the Vikings to win a big game and do a drive-by by Ryan Kelly.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just say this on air because it was funny, but our Colts, a guy we have on our staff who covered the Colts forever, he's like,
how is Robert Mays?
No, he's like, when you first meet Ryan Kelly, go up to him and say you hate me, and he'll be like, all right, I'll give you everything you need to know. And I was like, no, but they had a good
relationship. How do you do that? What do you do?
It was like
you hate me, don't you?
Yes,
like that?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in.
No. It was like You know that Zach Kiefer guy in Indianapolis? What a clown. All right, how are you? He's like, he'll love that.
Great.
But no, I truly, like, I think this team needed, I don't think they needed new leadership, but I definitely think the entry of guys who have been captains, who have been Walter Payton, you're adding, they've said that tagline, smart players who are tough and love football. They said
optionality.
They said that 97 billion times, and I got really tired of it probably at the 47th billion time. But I do think these guys are just kind of no-nonsense, love football guys who are going to be exponential inside of a locker room beyond what they do on the field. It's just good to know that they've done something to the interiors of both lines of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Because I've been here 3 years, and and I know it's been longer that those positions have existed and needed filling. So I'm probably with the fans where my eyes needed a refresh in that regard.
Well, to that end, where you're talking about it's not sustainable via free agency, and I would have loved like a Milton Williams here. But if you're not going to go in on Milton Williams for $100 million and the 26 or 27 per year that it averages out, you are looking at the misfit toys or the broken toy box of players that might be missing an arm or a leg, and you got to put that thing or hope that you put that thing back together again, and it works. So, the flexibility, I saw something online yesterday, Alec, that I think only like 3 or 4 players as of like 27 or 28, there's only like 3 or 4 players on the team that are even signed in that season, just a few years from now. So clearly, future flexibility, lack of handcuffing, and continuous opportunities for fresh cash, that's got to be one of Kwesi's goals. And some of these imperfect or injury past-laden players, that has to be part of it.
Yeah, they think about these things in like 2 to 3 year windows. And if you look at the structure, a lot of these contracts, it's very strategic in terms of.
Man, everybody's got 7 void years now, though. That's one thing you got to watch out for.
But it makes sense because the money is, assuming the cap continues to go up the way it has, the money that you have in the future is it's beneficial to have numbers in the future. That's why when they did the Justin extension that was smart. When they did the Darisaw extension that was more than smart. You're seeing guys who are tackles that I've never really even heard of and whose fans of their teams don't really like them getting $20 million.
I brought it up a couple of times this week, Alec. When we had the COVID season, 2021, the cap had to drop. And it would drop to like $1.82. It had been 190 something the previous year. It's now nearly $100 million more. Yeah. So all the times that it's been like, man, how much is the cap going up? We can't. Man, we're really locking ourselves into this. The NFL has figured out where the money tree is, and now it's a money tree grove. And they have just never failed to find an extra $25 million. That's an average of about $25 million extra dollars each season that they're growing. It's incredible and insane how they just never. They never run out of cash. The cap is a myth, Alec.
Yeah, it's a juggernaut. The cap being a myth thing is funny because people just say that because it's easy to say. And
I just joke about it.
Right,
but
and the cap is very complex. And then you watch the Saints and you're like, is it a myth? But also they're the Saints and they're terrible right now. So it's kind of interesting. And even the Eagles, I hate to keep bringing them up, even though they just won the Super Bowl, but they are the best example of they are very strategic with how they manage these contracts and place them into the future, but then they know when to move off guys like a Milton Williams and like a Josh Sweat, and they can move off of them because they have 20 picks over the next 2 years, and they have players developing like a Moro Ojomo, like a Jalix Hunt, to where when they let go of the Milton Williams and the Josh Sweat, they can replace them. So no, I think 2 things can be true. You can be very satisfied with a lot of the players they brought in, and should be, in terms of the Vikings and the interior reinforcements that they've made. But this is never going to be a sustainable situation until they start drafting effectively, which is also why the way they've managed this free agency is strategic as well, because they have done it in a situation where they want to generate comp picks for next year. That they've been very mindful of wanting to create comp picks for next season. And to do that, you've had to sign some players who've been cut, like a Jonathan Allen, like a potentially Javon Hargrave. So it's been a very successful and thoughtful last few days, I think.
Yeah.
Do you feel now philosophically, you mentioned the focus, they get pick 97 from a comp pick standpoint. Somebody asked me earlier today, I don't know, I'm not ready to say what 2026 looks like, but it looks like given the Sam deal with Seattle that they might actually, depending upon how things shake out, maybe even get one again next year.
Oh, they will, yeah.
So with that said, do you see a philosophical change where, Kwesi and the draft process and, quick to make moves. We've leveraged some picks in recent seasons, specifically this last draft to get Dallas Turner. And we're left now with a total of 4 picks, I believe, as of this particular moment. Do you see that philosophical change now moving forward, even to we are going to start making picks a premium and keeping our picks versus maybe some wheeling and dealing that we've seen in previous drafts?
Yeah, I mean, you would hope. It's kind of surprising to me that they've traded as many picks as they have, knowing who Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is and just the work that he did before he got to this role. And I'll say this, like I had a conversation with a staffer in Indy who had worked with Kwesi in Cleveland, and he even said,
"How is Pete Prisco?"
Yeah, I don't even know who Pete is. That's a CBS guy or something.
Name.
There was a staffer who worked with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah in Cleveland who told me something that I already felt was like they were surprised.
How is Bill Musgrave?
That they've traded the amount of draft capital that they've had, just knowing how valuable that stuff can be. So you would hope that it is. I mean, to need a philosophical change in that regard is just surprising, knowing that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is very in tune to the draft capital and all that stuff. And I don't really know. I'd like to see it play out. I also think like draft night, you're dealing with a lot of emotions, a lot of stress, a lot of tension, and stuff just can happen in those situations. So we'll see over time. But they need more picks. That's the headline in summary.
Do you think they'll be able to trade Garrett Bradbury?
Not sure. I'm just not sure. I do think he's going to have options for sure in terms of where that might be. But, I mean, if Cooper Kupp can't get traded, if a Jonathan Allen can't get traded, and I know their contracts were hefty, which affects being willing to trade those guys for draft capital. Yeah. I just think to say anything for certain in that respect.
Yeah. Garrett Bradbury can start for teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, he may not, it's Jason Kelsey may not be blushing, but there are spots in the NFL he can start.
Agree.
And if you feel you need him, well, then it behooves you to trade for him as opposed to playing the OK Corral game and come busting through the saloon passage with those Colt 45s, just absolutely firing.
I don't know what that means, but I kind of love the image of that.
Well, the free agency and the meat market is wild, wild west.
It's the saloon.
It's
with the Colt 45s
and the saloon passage. But Ben Johnson didn't want to deal with the wild, wild west, so he just went out there and made trades before it started. See?
Hope it works.
So see what I'm saying? See, you can make a trade too, and not have to deal with all of it.
Yeah, but I mean,
like credit the agent at the end of the tweet.
Sure, but it's just like with the Sam franchise tag thing. I think to expect a tag and trade, just like with that, to expect, they're going to get a second round pick for Sam Darnold. It's like to expect a 5th round pick for Garrett Bradbury. Be like, whoa, now hold on.
What?
Whoa, horsey at the saloon with whatever you're talking about.
The sarsaparilla.
I've seen some people down on Kwesi about that. I mean, we talked about it leading into, and it was just whether it was some syndicated radio. I've seen some national people. The idea that he failed miserably by not doing the tag and trade. And that's just it's been a head scratcher for me.
I saw that when it was before it happened. And it's like, I used to always say this when I covered baseball. It's like, if you get mad about a team for not trading a player without having any intel of what the offers were, then that you're making an opinion without the full extent of the context. So then you can just have an opinion. That's great. Like and every fan, every person should have an opinion. That's what makes this country phenomenal. But if you don't know a very key piece that should formulate why the opinion is made, then it's it's interesting.
Alec Lewis walked into the studio, and about 20 minutes ago, first thing he said to me was, "I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers playing here is impossible."
Oh my gosh.
We're going to discuss that when we return to KFAN.
This is the best tease you ever had.
Thank you. Lewis, The Athletic, theathletic.com.
How about that Boldy goal in the shootout last night? You see that?
Yeah. Were you serious with your tweet?
I love Boldy.
Yeah, okay. Because it's, you'll like when the hockey crowd gets loud about something that is of the hockey variety that is stimulating, you've been known to come over the top with, wow, but the neutral zone trap to set it up. Was where you'll go snuggeroo on it and you'll just kind of tease
Bob
it a little bit.
Look, I just learned from Bob Motzko.
Okay.
That's kind of the reality.
Right. But the Baldy goal, man, I mean, he just clowned on that goalie.
This guy's smooth. He is smooth.
Did you like him in the Two Nations?
It was the Four Nations.
Okay, thank you. I got you last week with Three Nations.
I learned. I'm playing faster today.
Yeah, you're diverting the conversation is what you're doing.
Exactly. You like that?
Just talk it out. I mean, I want to say it's a 0. Aaron Rodgers within the purple and gold covenant, period. Okay, I don't go steamrolling like you. You're steamrolling over the last year and change. Don't take this the wrong way. Has improved dramatically. I mean, you're not saying you were bad in the first place, but you're intentional with it now, man. And that Will Fry stuff that you started delivering in January came to fruition. I got a lot of respect for that. So I'm not asking for Aaron Rodgers related steam. And yes, I do believe, and despite, knowing they like Brett Rippon, and thus I like Brett Rippon. If they like him, I like him. But when it comes to a backup, the standalone backup, I can't say that makes sense. So if there's to be a veteran, you don't bring Aaron Rodgers onto a team to be a backup. Okay, so I'll just start it there. What do you think?
The first thing I'll say is the Vikings, publicly and privately, they believe very strongly in J.J. McCarthy. That's still the case. There's nothing changed in that regard. What I would ask,
you have PTAS, post-traumatic aggregator syndrome.
No, I don't have. Well, yeah, I do. I worry that anything that I say could get something screamed at.
They still take some profit. Big deal.
What I would say is you guys were here just like I was in 2023. And when Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles, yes, they acquired Josh Dobbs, but the season was over. And they have brought in a lot of talent here. And they have players on the roster like Justin Jefferson who want to win. And while I really do believe I'm with the team. Like I saw J.J. McCarthy last fall. It was awesome. I can't wait to see him as well. But there is a probability, just like there's probability with everything in the world, that either, yes, he's not exactly ready, or he got injured last year in the one preseason game. How confident can you realistically be that he's going to be healthy for the entire duration of the season? And if he were to get injured and you've spent all this money on a lot of talent and you have a lot of players who want to win and your fallback option is a D option, then it would be a difficult route to go.
Okay, but
now
but
I
if
will
you're
also say this.
Go ahead.
If Aaron Rodgers, all of this would have to be contingent upon him being willing to take very little money, him being okay with sitting on a bench, and him being okay within a culture that is not his culture.
Yeah.
And if all of those boxes are checked, and if the head coach, who is the decider upon quarterback within this organization, would be for it, and if ownership signed off on it, then I don't think it's the craziest, outlandish thing in the world. And I you know this. I've come in here. There have been stuff there have been stuff before that I see that I'm like, that is absolutely ridiculous.
Yep.
I'm not doing that now. And so for reasons is what I would say.
Right. How do you think he played last year, Rodgers?
I downloaded a film of Week 14 Jets versus Dolphins this morning. I haven't
The word
gone
is versus.
I haven't gone through it as much as versus. I know.
Too many people your age say verse.
I know.
Drives me nuts.
Yeah, Jared Versus played so well. That
so lazy.
Right. No, you're right. It's
Versus.
lazy. I mean, the numbers weren't good. Speaking upon his season last year, I would just go off what the narratives are because I didn't frankly care about him at all last year.
Remember how bad he looked at Tottenham Hotspur?
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was brutal. Andrew Van Ginkel got him pretty good. Yeah. Yes, but I'd pose this question to you. Is there a better veteran quarterback available?
But okay, great question. The totality of the equation has to be factored in. So, does he still run okay? Yes. Does he know where all the bones are buried? Yes. Does he read and or see defenses and check into things that are 75 to 85% right? Yes. But what noise do you have to deal with?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
how much it's like the Darnold conversation from last year. It's you got the whole season, okay, and we got some MVP conversation, very outsider, but we got 12 in the gate and he's number 12, but he's in the gate. And then we have the Lions game. So you have Rodgers and everything that goes with it, and this coach and this staff. Yeah, I believe they could find a way to make it work here. And I believe Aaron he's super smart and self-aware enough to humble himself in a way for the greater good. But the noise that comes with it and comes with him.
Well, that's why I think
I wouldn't want it, man. I'd prefer Joe Flacco.
And your opinion is widely held. I think there are a lot of people that would be like, why would you bring this circus into you would be really, in some ways, taking a risk with one of the greatest strengths that they've built as an organization with Kevin O'Connell here, and that is the culture that they've built.
Right.
But again, maybe internally they're willing to take that risk for the potential reward of if something were to happen to JJ, then you have somewhat of a fallback option that's not Jameis Winston, where then you're just throwing interceptions probably all over the place. And you mentioned Joe Flacco, and I understand why. And I do think he would be a very quiet veteran option who would be an advantage for the room, a guy who's seen it all. But if JJ were to get hurt or something were to happen, and your fallback is Joe Flacco,
but that's hard to go down that road, Alec.
It is. But
because you don't sign if you're concerned about if so-and-so gets injured, holy cow. Well, you don't sign Ryan Kelly. You just can't. I mean, if you're going to play scared that way, then you can't willingly bring in somebody who had 3 separate injuries last year and missed most of the season.
No, I think that's a very fair response. In some ways, I'm trying to represent the conversation around it but
you believe it's a conversation? Like if you were to bet, within the building, somebody is like, well, of course it's a conversation because as they'll say, all stones need to be unturned. And that's how every organization operates. But to make he becomes the identity of the football team. If you sign Aaron Rodgers, he has become the polarizing identity of your covenant. And you've put a lot of work into this covenant to not be searching for nickels and dimes in free agency like they had for a decade. Check. Drafting, as we've mentioned, needs to get better, but you have a quarterback that they like and the fan base likes. Mm-hmm. Check. You just dropped $200+ million in free agency. So the steroid amplifying the lifeblood that is the organization, it worked last year. Hopefully it works this year. Check. Mm-hmm. And then when you bring somebody like that in, it's not just having Gardner Minshew as your backup. It's not Skylar Thompson as your backup. It's Aaron Rodgers, man.
I know.
And he ain't coming here to be a backup. Okay? That's Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's not coming to the Minnesota Vikings to be a backup. If they sign him, that's because they, like you said, you can say concerned. You don't bring in competition for J.J. McCarthy. It's his job. If you bring somebody in, then there's something wrong. That's how I look. If you bring Aaron Rodgers in, there's something wrong that we don't know.
Well, I think it's a very fair response, and I think it's a very fair take within the conversation. And I don't really have much of a argument within it, other than if
there is no argument. We're just being boys right now.
Yeah, other than if Aaron Rodgers. I mean, again, I don't want it to come off like I'm vouching for Aaron Rodgers to happen. No. I'm just trying to represent the reality.
I got it.
And I keep saying the word reality, and I messed up verse, and I said to be honest, and so
what about
I've got a little bit of
optionality?
Reflection. Yeah, optionality. I've got a little bit of reflection to do myself. But
I've got plenty of time this weekend at the tournament.
That's exactly right. No, but I'd say as of yesterday, what I know is like they're kicking around options internally for what that would look like to pair with JJ McCarthy. And I don't know. I've thought a lot about all layers of it. And I think, I mean, it's pretty clear that you don't want to do anything at this point to impede the transition to JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
But I think you also, if you're smart and if you're mindful, you have to think about, insurance for that, aspects relating to
Flacco's
it.
Fine.
And I'll also say this.
Flacco's fine. And he's cheaper, and he's less hassle. And he knows how to win, and he still throws the ball well. And you just pumped zillions into your O-line. So supposedly, he shouldn't be running for his life, whomever it is. And I don't even know if they like Joe Flacco. I mean, this is all my deduction here. I like Joe Flacco, man.
Well, I was listening on the drive over, and you're talking about Flacco, and I was like, I remember last year when Richardson got benched, and we were at the Friday Football Feast, probably in Roseville, and it was like, oh no, here's Flacco. This is it's like, guys, he's 40. Yeah. He's not like some elite processor. He doesn't have an elite arm. He's done it for a long time. But I do think, I mean,
Rodgers still has an elite arm.
I'm not saying that he does. I'm not. But I'm saying if Kevin O'Connell, the person choosing the quarterback in the room to pair with J.J. McCarthy were to decide that that's the route they wanted to go, look, it would be very interesting, is what I would say.
It's McCarthy's money.
It'd be very interesting.
It's McCarthy's money, man. I mean,
I also will say this about J.J. McCarthy. For as positive as the fan base is and as people internally are, like
Rodgers doesn't have Favre likability. It's you see, you caught lightning in the proverbial bottle in 2009. Cool. What about
no? It's a
What about 2010?
It's a very different.
Somebody caught something in a bottle and it wasn't lightning.
It's a very different circumstance than 2009 with Favre. It's just totally different. So I get why people say it because of the arc of both players, but it's a totally different situation. And I do think, I mean, by bringing in Aaron Rodgers beyond the circus of the interviews and the McAfee and the ego and all
McAfee.
that, I mean, it would be, and I love Pat, but
me too.
But it would
I was just thinking, hey, you know what, man? You guys are 4-3. McCarthy's passer rating just was 62 for the second consecutive game. When are you going to play?
Well, and
that'd be great.
Well, even just the entry of him and what that would do for JJ's confidence of like, or do they not believe? If they might tell me they believe and they might say it publicly, but does that signal that even just affecting that psyche, I can understand why a fan would be listening in their car, slamming the steering wheel. Like, why is this even a conversation?
I like how they did it with Jones, and it's too bad they don't have Jones because...
Well, that's why they wanted to have him, because it was a perfect... The guy's quiet, he's capable.
Yeah, and they're playing the compensatory game.
Right, they are.
Yeah. You're elite. Travel safely this weekend, and we'll see you soon, okay?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was fun. Nordo, good to see you.
Good to see you.
See you next week if you have time, all right?
Yes, sir.
Alec Lewis at Alec_Lewis via the tweet machine. Don't forget about the Alec Lewis Show podcast. Learn more via his Twitter feed and or via YouTube. Just search it, Alec Lewis Show. Don't leave.
I can't wait.
Got to lighten the conversation a little bit tomorrow. I mean, the Kwesi train went off the track there for a second.
It did.
I mean, but I stick by what I say is if And I just can't believe it would happen. And I'm not saying it will happen. In fact, I would bet if honestly, and I throw this equation out at people, it's, and I probably shouldn't, but nevertheless, if it's a heaven or hell equation, then I bet no Aaron Rodgers. And, hopefully
I do as well. Yeah.
I'm not right because I don't feel like doing jackknifes into the lake of fire. But I do stick by, just kind of what I tripped onto where I'm like, if Aaron Rodgers, there's something wrong with J.J. McCarthy, if you bring a guy like Aaron Rodgers here.
Yeah,
there's something wrong somewhere with some covenant,
No, I do. The only other scenario, it's like he's young and he's still growing up, and you could if Rodgers rolled into town, what they would sell you on, because it's not a bench. Rodgers is starting.
Yeah.
That's the bid if he comes to town.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
So the only thing they're selling you on then is another year of seasoning. One more year, JJ put 20 pounds on, dig into the book. But now, in the same way, the idea of him, he's injured his first year and then he's benched the second year and then it's full season ahead.
I ain't having it.
And so I would.
Especially for an unsigned general manager or unextended general manager who needs these picks to hit.
Right. So let me reverse course. I always joked about Sean Mannion being the best Microsoft Surface holder in the history of the NFL, and he was so great in support of Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
And that was always laughable to me.
Yeah.
Is there an element of, and again, I said it yesterday, I don't necessarily care who the name is, but we want somebody who can maybe level things out if McCarthy was to get hurt.
Yep.
What about the idea, whether it's Flacco or somebody else, that is a huge support piece.
Agreed.
To McCarthy's development.
It has to be.
And so that's the direction I'm going.
Sure.
I don't see Rodgers now very quickly entering gun for hire stage as being that answer. If he comes here, he's starting, and we'll have fun with it, and all the jokes and all the hysteria will ensue. Yeah. But I don't foresee that happening, and we'll see if we're surprised maybe later today.
With backup quarterbacks, instead of looking at 40 times or shuttle scores from combines of days gone by, we need to look at grade point averages, to see who can scholastically help young JJ the best.
Yeah.
So I'm in the Cooper Rush camp. Let's talk about him tomorrow or talk about him never. Thank you for listening. I'm Paul Allen. Here comes Big Daddy Khan and the wrap on the show.
Cooper Rush. Wentz was studious. Minshew, man. It's a free agent flurry done with the first wave. Chance to sleep and get a shower. Throw in a fresh shave. Available list getting more and more barren. Steam business keeps building. What's going on with Aaron? Rumors of Rodgers. Decision looming in the steam industry. Business is booming. Polarizing opinions. No sitting on the fence. Head spinning. Does it or does it not make sense? But the roster has much with which to fiddle. The safety in the mix. Another fat guy in the middle. While we know who will be out there on fourth to punt, who's going to fill the role of Johnny Mutt? Hey, today, Javon Hargrave next up. And then who knows? Check out MSP for Cooper Cup. We'll be back tomorrow. Hockey, football at Tria. Until then, have an incredible afternoon. We'll see ya.
Free agency never fails on the Quasi train.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.